The Velthari did not wait long to show their power. 6 hours after Captain Lee Hyun's defiant message, the space around the human fleet began to change in ways that made no sense. Dr. Kim Yuna was in the main science lab with her team when the first demonstration began. Through the window, she watched 3 moons that orbited a nearby gas giant suddenly break their natural paths. The moons, each one bigger than Earth's moon, began to move in perfect circles around each other. "That is impossible," whispered Dr. Shin Hai, the ship's quantum physicist. "The gravity forces alone should tear those moons apart. But look at the sensors. They are not even stressed." Ensign Kang Wu, a young navigator who had joined the fleet just 6 months ago, stared at the display screen. Maybe they really are gods. How else could they do that? Chief Petty Officer Nam Jin, a tough Marine veteran with scars from 3 different wars, snorted. "I have seen a lot of impossible things, kid. Most of them turned out to have very normal explanations once we figured them out." But even Nam Jin looked worried as he watched the moons dance. They moved like they weighed nothing, spinning and weaving through space in patterns that hurt to watch. Dr. Kim Yuna was recording everything. "The gravity readings are all wrong. Either our instruments are broken, or they are somehow controlling gravity itself." The second demonstration came an hour later. A Velthari ship, one of the smaller crystal structures, moved close to an asteroid field. The ship did not fire any weapons. It simply floated there for a moment. Then the asteroids began to change. Rock became metal. Metal became crystal. Some asteroids split into perfect geometric shapes. Others merged together into new forms. It was like watching a child play with building blocks, except the blocks were mountains of stone and metal. "They are creating matter from nothing," Dr. Shin Hai said, her voice barely above a whisper. "That breaks every law of physics we know." Commander Park Soo was on the bridge watching the tactical displays. The energy readings from the Velthari ships kept changing in ways that made no sense. Sometimes they showed enormous power. Sometimes they showed nothing at all, as if the ships were not even there. "Captain," she reported to Lee Hyun, "their ships keep disappearing from our sensors, then coming back. Not cloaking. Actually disappearing, like they stop existing for a few seconds." Lee Hyun was studying the reports from the science team. Everything they were seeing seemed to support the Velthari's claims. But something felt wrong about it all. The third demonstration was the most frightening. Communications Officer Jang Mira suddenly grabbed her head and cried out in pain. "What is it?" Dr. Kim Yuna rushed to help her. "Voices," Jang Mira gasped. "In my head. They are talking to me without using the radio." All across the ship, crew members began reporting the same thing. The Velthari were speaking directly into their minds. Not just to one person, but to everyone at the same time. The voices were clear and loud, impossible to ignore. "Do you see now, children of Earth? We speak to your minds across the void. We reshape matter with our thoughts. We move worlds with our will. This is why we are called gods." Ensign Kang Wu fell to his knees in the science lab. "We cannot fight this. They are beyond us. We should surrender before they destroy us all." But Chief Nam Jin helped the young man back to his feet. "Get up, Ensign. I have seen scary things before. Just because something looks impossible does not mean it is." Dr. Kim Yuna was thinking the same thing. She had spent her life studying alien life forms. She had learned that what seemed like magic usually had a scientific explanation. "Dr. Shin," she said, "start analyzing the quantum readings from when they moved those moons. Look for patterns. Everything in the universe follows rules, even if we do not understand them yet." Dr. Shin Hai nodded and began working. She had always believed that science could explain anything, given enough time and data. Meanwhile, Engineer Choi Bin was in the weapons bay, studying the Velthari ships with military sensors. He was looking for weaknesses, for anything that might help if fighting started. "The energy patterns are strange," he reported to Captain Lee Hyun. "When they do these big demonstrations, there are power spikes across multiple frequencies. But there are also gaps, moments when the energy drops to almost nothing. Like they need to recharge?" Lee Hyun asked. "Maybe. Or like they are using so much power for these shows that they cannot do everything at once." The fourth demonstration came at the end of the day. A Velthari ship approached one of the human supply vessels, a small cargo ship called the Morning Star. The alien ship did not attack. Instead, it simply made the human ship stop working. The Morning Star's engines died. Its lights went out. Its life support systems failed. The crew started sending desperate messages for help, but then, just as suddenly, everything came back online. The ship was fine. The crew was unhurt. It was like the Velthari had simply turned the ship off and on again. A demonstration, came the voice in everyone's head. We can end any of your vessels whenever we choose. Your technology is like toys to us. Surrender now, and we will be merciful. That night, Captain Lee Hyun called a meeting of all his senior officers. The conference room was quiet except for the hum of the ship's air recycling system. Report, he said simply. Dr. Kim Yuna spoke first. The demonstrations are real. They really did move those moons, change matter, and disable our ship. But Dr. Shin has found something interesting in the quantum readings. Dr. Shin Hai looked tired but excited. Captain, I think they are using technology, not magic. Very advanced technology, but still technology. The quantum field fluctuations suggest they are manipulating space-time itself. In simple words, Doctor, they might not be gods, sir. They might just be a very old species with tools we do not understand yet. Commander Park Soo leaned forward. That matches what Engineer Choi found. Their power usage suggests limits. They cannot do everything at once. Chief Nam Jin spoke up from the back of the room. Sir, the crew is scared. Some of them think we should surrender. Others want to fight. But most are just confused. Ensign Kang Woo, who had been quiet, finally spoke. Captain, what if they really are gods? What if fighting them is not just hopeless but wrong? Lee Hyun looked at each of his officers. He could see the doubt in their eyes. The Velthari demonstrations had been impressive and frightening. Ensign, let me ask you something. If they are gods, why do they need our surrender? If they can do anything, why not just make us obey? Kang Woo thought about this. Maybe they want us to choose. Or maybe, said Dr. Kim Yuna, they cannot just make us obey. Maybe their power has limits. Engineer Choi Bin nodded. Every weapon has limits, Captain. Every technology has weaknesses. Even if we do not see them yet. Lee Hyun stood up. Then we keep looking. We study everything they do. We learn how their technology works. And we find those weaknesses. And if we cannot find any? Asked Commander Park Soo. Lee Hyun smiled grimly. Then we make some. The meeting ended, but no one felt like sleeping. Outside the ship, the Velthari crystal vessels floated in space like beautiful deadly flowers. They pulsed with internal light, and sometimes they flickered like stars. Dr. Shin Hai worked through the night, analyzing quantum data. Dr. Kim Yuna studied biological scans, looking for any sign of actual life inside the crystal ships. Engineer Choi Bin tested weapons, trying to find frequencies that might affect the alien technology. They had 60 hours left before the Velthari deadline. 60 hours to prove that gods could bleed. Dr. Shin Hai had not slept in 36 hours. Her eyes were red and her hands shook from too much coffee, but she had found something important. Very important. Captain, she called over the ship's communication system. Please come to the science lab. I need to show you something. Captain Lee Hyun arrived with Commander Park Soo and Dr. Kim Yuna. The science lab was a mess of data screens, quantum analysis equipment, and empty food containers. What do you have, Doctor? Lee Hyun asked. Dr. Shin pointed to a complex display showing wave patterns. I have been studying the quantum signatures from every Velthari demonstration. Look at this pattern when they moved the moons. The screen showed a series of peaks and valleys, like a heartbeat made of energy. Now look at this pattern when they changed the asteroids from rock to metal. A second pattern appeared. It was different, but it had the same basic rhythm. And this is from when they made the morning star stop working. A third pattern joined the first two. Again, different details but the same underlying beat. They are all connected, Dr. Shin said excitedly. Every demonstration uses the same base frequency. They are not using different powers for different effects. They are using one technology in different ways. Lieutenant Bae Sion, a quantum engineer who had joined the investigation, looked up from her station. It gets better, Captain. That base frequency matches theoretical calculations for quantum field manipulation. Dr. Kim Yuna frowned. Explain that in simple terms. Lieutenant Bae pointed to another screen. Think of reality like a giant spiderweb made of energy. Everything in the universe is connected by these quantum fields. If you know how to pluck the right strings, you can make changes anywhere in the web. Like a musician playing an instrument, Dr. Shin added. The Velthari have learned to play the quantum fields like we play a piano. Captain Lee Hyun studied the data. He did not understand all the science, but he understood what it meant. So they are not creating matter from nothing. They are rearranging what is already there. Exactly, said Dr. Shin. And they are not controlling gravity directly. They are changing the quantum fields that create gravity effects. Dr. Han Noel, the ship's computer expert, looked up from her own workstation. Captain, I have been analyzing their communications. The telepathic messages they send are not really telepathic. They are using quantum entanglement to send signals directly to our brain chemistry. That is how they can speak every human language perfectly, added Communications Officer Jang Mira, who had joined the group. They are not translating. They are making our brains understand their meaning directly. Lieutenant Bay was getting more excited as she worked. If I am right about how their technology works, it should have a major weakness. Quantum field manipulation requires enormous amounts of energy and very precise control. What kind of weakness? Commander Park Soo asked. Harmonic disruption, Lieutenant Bay said. If we can create the right frequency pattern, we should be able to interfere with their quantum field generators. Dr. Shin nodded eagerly. Like two sound waves canceling each other out. If we match their frequency and reverse it, we could disrupt their entire system. Captain Lee Hyun felt hope for the first time since the crisis began. Can we build such a weapon? Engineer Choi Bin had been listening from the doorway. Maybe, Captain. I would need to modify our plasma torpedoes, replace the explosive warheads with quantum field generators tuned to Lieutenant Bay's specifications. How long? Lee Hyun asked. 12 hours for a prototype, maybe 6 more hours to make enough for a real test. Do it. While the engineers worked on the weapon, Dr. Kim Yuna made another discovery. She had been studying biological scans of the Velthari ships, looking for any signs of life inside the crystal structures. Captain, she called, I found something strange. There are life signs inside their ships, but they are very faint, and they are in a pattern I have never seen before. She showed him the bioscanner display. Instead of the normal patterns that showed active, living creatures, the readings looked more like someone in very deep sleep. It is like they are barely alive, Dr. Kim said. Their biological processes are slowed down to almost nothing. Sergeant Lee Sol, one of the Marines who specialized in boarding enemy ships, had been studying the tactical data. Ma'am, if they are in some kind of sleep state, that might explain why they need so much time between demonstrations. What do you mean? Dr. Kim asked. They cannot stay active and use their technology at the same time. They have to choose between being awake and being powerful. Dr. Han Noel had been quietly working on another project. Captain, I think I have hacked into their communication network. Everyone turned to look at her. Their quantum entanglement system is very advanced, but it follows logical patterns. I have been able to listen in on some of their internal communications. What are they saying? Lee Hyun asked. Dr. Han looked uncomfortable. They are arguing. Some of them think humanity is too dangerous to allow to survive. Others think we should be enslaved like other species they have conquered. But Captain, they are definitely not gods. How do you know? Gods do not worry about fuel consumption. Gods do not complain about equipment maintenance. Gods do not argue about resource allocation. She played a recording of alien voices speaking in their own language, with a translation scrolling across the screen. The quantum matrix is showing stress fractures in Sector 7. We need to reduce power to non-essential systems. The biological preservation chambers are using too much energy. We should put more units into deep stasis. These humans are more troublesome than the Corvin species. Perhaps we should have destroyed them immediately. Captain Lee Hyun smiled grimly. These were not the words of gods. These were the words of people with problems, people with limitations, people who could be beaten. 18 hours after Dr. Shin's discovery, Engineer Choi reported that the prototype weapon was ready for testing. We only have one shot, he warned. If this does not work, they will know what we are trying to do. Captain Lee Hyun looked around the bridge at his crew. They all looked tired and scared, but they also looked determined. Target their smallest ship, he ordered. The one on the edge of their formation. Quantum disruption torpedo loaded and ready, reported the weapons officer. Fire. The torpedo streaked through space, looking like any other human weapon. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Velthari ship began to flicker. Its crystal hull became solid, then transparent, then solid again. The beautiful light patterns inside the ship started flashing randomly, and for just a few seconds the ship's shields failed completely. Direct hit with conventional weapons now, Lee Hyun shouted. 3 plasma bolts struck the Velthari ship. Its hull cracked. Atmosphere leaked out into space. The ship spun helplessly for a moment before its crew regained control. The bridge was completely silent. They had done it. They had hurt one of the gods. Then the communication system came alive with the voice of the Velthari, but this time it sounded different. It sounded angry and afraid. Impossible. How do mortals wound eternity? How do children of dirt and water harm the eternal shepherds? Captain Lee Hyun smiled as he opened a response channel. Easy, he said. We learned that eternity bleeds. The broken Velthari ship was still falling apart when Captain Lee Hyun ordered his Marines to board it. Chief Nam Jin led the boarding party through the wreckage, wearing modified suits that protected them from quantum field radiation. What they found inside changed everything. The alien ship was not filled with godlike beings of pure energy. Instead, Nam Jin and his team discovered chambers filled with very old, very fragile creatures floating in preservation fluid. They looked somewhat like humans, but stretched thin and pale, as if they had lived far too long. Captain, Nam Jin reported over the radio, you need to see this. These are not gods. These are people. Very sick, very old people. One of the creatures was still alive, barely breathing in its damaged chamber. Dr. Kim Yuna studied it through the medical scanners that Nam Jin carried. The biological readings are incredible, she said. This creature is ancient, maybe thousands of years old, but it is also dying. The preservation systems have been keeping it alive far beyond its natural lifespan. The dying alien opened its eyes and looked at the human Marines. When it spoke, its voice was weak and filled with pain. So long, it whispered. So long since we were truly alive. We forgot what it was like to feel real sunlight, to breathe natural air. Dr. Kim moved closer to the creature. What are you? What is the Velthari? We were explorers once, the alien said. Like you. We wanted to see the galaxy, to learn and grow. But we found the quantum technologies. We learned to extend our lives, to shape matter with our thoughts, to move between stars without ships, the creature coughed, and the preservation fluid around it turned darker. We became so powerful that other species feared us. They called us gods and begged us to rule them. We liked that feeling. We started to believe it ourselves. You are not immortal, Dr. Kim said gently. No, we just forgot how to die. Our technology keeps our bodies alive, but our souls died long ago. We have been pretending to be gods for so long that we forgot we were ever mortal. The alien's eyes focused on her face. Your species frightens us because you remind us of what we used to be. Young, curious, refusing to bow to anyone. We see ourselves in you and it hurts. Back on the Iron Will, Captain Lee Hyun was receiving reports from across the galaxy. The news of the Velthari defeat was spreading fast and the results were surprising. Captain, Communications Officer Yang Mira reported, we are getting messages from dozens of species. They are all saying the same thing. They are free. Free from what? Free from the Velthari. Apparently there are hundreds of species across the galaxy that have been serving the Velthari as gods for thousands of years.
Now they are learning that their gods can be beaten. Dr. Han was monitoring alien communication networks.
Sir, it is like a revolution spreading across space. Species that have been slaves for millennia are rising up against their Velthari overlords. Lieutenant Bay looked up from her quantum analysis. Captain, I think I know why. The Velthari Empire depends on their quantum field network. When we destroyed their command ship, we damaged the network. Their power is failing everywhere, but the war was not over. Long-range sensors detected a massive structure approaching their position. It was bigger than anything they had seen before, a crystalline construct the size of a small moon. The Eternal Throne, whispered the dying Velthari prisoner. Our greatest temple, our most powerful weapon. If they are bringing it here, they mean to end your species completely. Captain Lee Hyun studied the tactical readings. The approaching structure was not just huge. It was the source of the quantum field network that gave the Velthari their power. If we can destroy that, Dr. Shin said, we can end their ability to control space and time. How do we fight something that big? Ensign Kang Wu asked. The young officer had grown braver during the battle, but the size of the enemy temple ship still frightened him. Engineer Choi had been studying the wreckage of the Velthari command ship. Captain, I think there might be a way. Their quantum technology has a critical weakness. All their power comes from one central source. If we can overload that source, the whole network collapses, finished Lieutenant Bay. More human ships were arriving to join the battle. The news of the Velthari defeat had brought reinforcements from across human space. Captain Lee Hyun now commanded a fleet of 30 vessels, including some of the most advanced warships humanity had ever built. But even 30 ships seemed small compared to the Eternal Throne. The alien temple ship filled space like a small star, pulsing with internal light and surrounded by thousands of smaller vessels. "This is our final offer," came the voice of the Velthari High Command. "Surrender now and we will allow your species to serve us. Refuse and we will unmake every world you have ever touched." Captain Lee Hyun opened a response channel, broadcasting not just to the Velthari but to every species in the galaxy that was listening. "We have a different offer," he said. "You can stop pretending to be gods and start acting like people again. Or we can show the galaxy that even the mightiest tyrants are just mortals who got too comfortable on their thrones." The battle for the Eternal Throne was the largest space battle in galactic history. Human ships fought alongside vessels from newly freed alien species. The quantum weapons of the Velthari met the determination and ingenuity of dozens of worlds that had decided they would no longer kneel. Sergeant Lee Sol led a boarding assault on the temple ship itself, fighting through corridors filled with energy beings and quantum traps. Dr. Shin and Lieutenant Bei worked to overload the central quantum core while the battle raged around them. Chief Nam Jin and his Marines found something unexpected in the heart of the Eternal Throne. A massive chamber filled with millions of Velthari and preservation tanks. Most were already dead, their ancient bodies finally failing after millennia of artificial life. "They are not ruling the galaxy," Nam Jin reported. "They are hiding from it. This whole ship is just a giant tomb where they keep their dead and dying." In the end, it was not weapons that defeated the Velthari. It was Communications Officer Jang Mira who found the key. She managed to hack into the quantum network and broadcast the truth to every species in the galaxy. "The gods are dying," her message said. "They have been dying for thousands of years. They are just too afraid to admit it." When the enslaved species learned that their gods were mortal, ancient, and afraid, the Velthari Empire collapsed in a matter of hours. Species after species rose up and threw off their chains. The quantum network that had controlled half the galaxy simply shut down as its operators finally stopped fighting and accepted their mortality. The last Velthari leader, an ancient creature who had ruled for 10,000 years, appeared on the communications screen. He looked tired and very, very old. "We offer you our knowledge," he said to Captain Lee Hyun. "Our technology, our wisdom, everything we have learned in our long existence. All we ask is that you remember us as gods, not as the frightened mortals we became." Captain Lee Hyun looked at the alien ruler with something that might have been pity. "We will remember you as what you were," he said gently. "People who achieved great things then forgot that being mortal is not something to be ashamed of. People who let power make them forget their humanity." The Velthari Empire ended not with explosions but with acceptance. The surviving members of the species were offered new homes on worlds across the galaxy, with the understanding that they would live as normal citizens, not as rulers or gods. Some species that had been enslaved for millennia struggled to live without masters. Others celebrated their freedom and joined the growing alliance of free worlds. But all of them learned the same lesson that humanity had taught the galaxy. No one, no matter how powerful, is above being questioned. No one, no matter how ancient, is beyond being held accountable. And no one, no matter what they claim, has the right to demand that others kneel. Captain Lee Hyun stood on the bridge of the Iron Will, looking out at the stars. The galaxy was a bigger, more complex place than humanity had imagined when they first left Earth. It was full of wonders and dangers, ancient civilizations and new possibilities. But it was also a place where people could choose their own paths, where no voice was too small to matter, and where even gods could be reminded that they were once mortal. The human fleet moved on to their next destination, carrying with them the knowledge that the universe belonged to everyone who was brave enough to reach for it. The Velthari's response was swift and terrible. Within hours of the first successful human attack, 3 human colonies in nearby star systems went silent, not destroyed with explosions or fire, but simply turned off like lights being switched out. Captain Lee Hyun stared at the reports coming in from the colonies. The settlements on New Sol, Horizon Base, and Terra Nova had all stopped transmitting at exactly the same time. Long-range sensors showed the planets were still there, but there were no signs of life. 47,000 people. Dr. Kim Yuna said quietly. Gone in an instant. Communications Officer Jang Mira was pale as she read the latest messages. Captain, we are getting transmissions from 17 other colonies. They all received the same message from the Velthari. This is what happens when mortals forget their place. The alien voice came through the ship's speakers again, but now it sounded cold and angry instead of calm and superior. Children of Earth, you have made a grave mistake. We offered you guidance and wisdom. We offered you a place in our eternal empire. Instead, you chose violence against your betters. Ensign Kang Wu was shaking at his navigation station. The young officer had watched the tactical displays as the colonies died. Sir, maybe we should surrender. Maybe we can save the other colonies if we give up now. Chief Petty Officer Nam Jin turned around from his position. Ensign, if we surrender now, do you think they will stop? Or do you think they will just kill us more slowly? Before Kang Wu could answer, the ship's alarm started screaming. Commander Park Su's tactical display lit up with warnings. Captain, we have incoming Velthari ships, not the crystal vessels we have seen before. These are different. Through the bridge windows they could see new alien ships approaching. These were not beautiful crystal structures. They were dark, angular, and moved with predatory grace. They looked like weapons built for one purpose: killing. Energy signatures are off the charts, reported Lieutenant Bay from her station. These ships are putting out 10 times more power than the crystal vessels. Engineer Choi tried to target the new ships with their quantum disruption weapons, but the targeting systems could not lock on. The alien vessels seemed to flicker in and out of existence, appearing in one place then instantly appearing somewhere else. They are using the same quantum field technology, Dr. Shin called from the science station, but they have adapted. Our disruption frequency is not working on these ships. The first attack came without warning. One of the Velthari warships simply pointed at the human cargo vessel Lucky Strike, and the ship began to age. They could see it happening through the telescopes. The hull turned from shining metal to rust. The viewports cracked and went dark. In 30 seconds, a brand new ship became a drifting wreck. Temporal displacement weapon, Dr. Shin said in horror. They are accelerating time around the target. The ship aged 50 years in half a minute. The second attack was different. Another Velthari ship created what looked like a small black hole near the human destroyer Braveheart. The gravity well pulled the ship apart piece by piece, crushing the hull like an empty can. All ships evasive maneuvers, Captain Lee Hyun ordered. Spread out and keep moving. But the Velthari had more surprises. From the largest of their warships came creatures that looked like living energy. They flew through space without ships, passing through the vacuum like it was air. When they touched human vessels, they went right through the hull armor as if it was not there. Boarding parties, Sergeant Lee Sol reported, but not like any I have ever seen. They are inside the Dawn Rider and the crew cannot touch them. The energy beings moved through the human ships, disabling systems and crew with simple contact. They could become solid when they wanted to affect something, but they could also become pure energy to pass through walls and weapons. Sir, Communications Officer Jang Mira reported, the Dawn Rider crew says the boarders are taking control of the ship's systems. They are turning our own weapons against us. Captain Lee Hyun watched helplessly as one human ship after another fell to the Velthari assault. Their quantum disruption weapons were useless against these new enemies. Their conventional weapons could not hit targets that flickered through space-time. Their Marines could not fight boarders made of living energy. We need to retreat, Commander Park Su said. We are losing ships fast and we are not hurting them at all. But Dr. Shin had been working frantically at her station. Wait, Captain. I think I see something. These new ships, they are using more advanced quantum manipulation, but they are also using much more energy. She pointed to her readings. Look at the power consumption. Those time weapons are draining enormous amounts of power, and the energy beings, they cannot maintain physical form for very long. Lieutenant Bay was already working on modifications to their weapons. If we cannot disrupt their quantum fields directly, maybe we can overload them. Force them to use more power than they can handle. Engineer Choi was listening to the technical discussion while keeping his eyes on the tactical display. What do you need? Multi-frequency plasma bursts, Lieutenant Bay said quickly. Not trying to cancel their quantum fields, but trying to make them work harder. Like forcing someone to lift weights that are too heavy. How long to modify the weapons? No time for modifications, but we can overload our own power cores and channel everything through the main guns. It would burn out our weapon systems, but it might work. Captain Lee Hyun did not hesitate. Do it. While the engineers worked, the battle continued around them. The human fleet was down to 6 ships from the original 12. The Velthari were methodically destroying them one by one, taking their time now that resistance seemed hopeless. Chief Nam Jin and his Marines had found a way to fight the energy borders. They discovered that electromagnetic grenades could disrupt the creatures' energy forms, forcing them back into the quantum fields they came from. It does not kill them, Nam Jin reported, but it sends them away for a few minutes. Sergeant Lee Sol had an idea. What if we use the ship's own energy systems? Route power through the hull plating. Make the whole ship into one big electromagnetic field. Dr. Han, the computer expert, was already working on it. I can reroute power from life support and artificial gravity. It will not last long, but it might keep the boarders out. The modifications were dangerous and desperate, but they worked. When the next wave of energy beings tried to board human ships, they found themselves blocked by electromagnetic barriers. Some ships lost life support, others lost gravity, but they stayed under human control. Engineer Choi finished his work on the weapons. Ready, Captain. But this will only work once. After we fire, we will have no weapons left. Captain Lee Hyun looked at what remained of his fleet. 6 ships against dozens of Velthari vessels, crews fighting with improvised weapons against enemies that could manipulate time and space. Target the largest warship, he ordered. All remaining vessels coordinate fire on my mark. The human ships moved into formation, their weapons charging with dangerous amounts of power. The Velthari seemed to sense something was happening. Their ships began moving to attack positions. Fire everything. 6 streams of overloaded plasma struck the Velthari command ship at exactly the same moment. The alien vessel's quantum fields flared brilliantly as they tried to absorb the massive energy surge. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Velthari ship began to shake. Its quantum fields flickered and failed. The beautiful patterns of light inside its hull went dark. The ship cracked down the middle and broke apart. As it died, the aliens inside sent one final message. Impossible. We are eternal. How do mortals wound eternity? But Captain Lee Hyun was already thinking about the next battle. Because now he knew something important. The Velthari could be hurt. They could be killed. They were not gods after all. They were just people who had forgotten that even gods can bleed. Captain Lee Hyun stood on the bridge of the UES Iron Will, watching the stars through the large window. His ship was big and strong, built for war but hoping for peace. Today felt different, though. The sensors were picking up something strange in the Kepler 442 system ahead of them. Captain, said Commander Park Soo from her station, we are getting readings I have never seen before. There are structures out there. Big ones. Lee Hyun walked over to look at her screen. The numbers made no sense. The objects were huge, bigger than any space station humans had ever built. They were not made of metal or rock. The sensors said they were made of something like crystal, but that could not be right. How big are we talking about? Lee Hyun asked. Park Soo checked her readings again. Sir, the largest one is about 50 kilometers long. Our whole ship could fit inside it 100 times over. Dr. Kim Yuna looked up from her research station. She was the ship's expert on alien life and cultures. Captain, I am not reading any life signs as we know them. But there is definitely intelligence behind those structures. They are not natural. The Iron Will was leading a small fleet of human ships. They had come to this system to set up mining operations on the 4th planet. It was supposed to be empty space with no intelligent life anywhere nearby. The star maps showed nothing but rocks and gas. Engineer Choi Bin was working at his weapons console just in case. He was a quiet man who kept the ship's guns ready for trouble. Captain, those things have energy signatures I do not understand. They are putting out more power than our entire fleet combined. Communications Officer Jang Mira suddenly turned around in her chair. Her face was pale. Captain, I am getting a signal. It is coming in on all frequencies at once. And sir, it is in perfect Korean. Also in English, Chinese, Arabic, and every other human language I know. Lee Hyun felt his stomach tighten. Put it through. The bridge speakers came alive with a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It was neither male nor female, young nor old. It simply was. Greetings, children of the small blue world. We are the Velthari, the eternal shepherds of this galaxy. We have watched your species crawl from the mud and reach for the stars. How amusing that you have finally found us. The voice paused, and Lee Hyun could feel his crew holding their breath. We are the ones who lit the first fires in the darkness. We shaped the very atoms that make your bodies. We have guided lesser species for millions of your years, watching them grow, teaching them their place in our grand design. Dr. Kim Yuna was recording everything, her fingers flying over her controls. She caught Lee Hyun's eye and shook her head slightly. She did not believe what they were hearing. The voice continued. We are immortal. We are eternal. We are what your kind calls gods, though that word is too small for what we truly are. Every star you see in your sky burns because we allow it. Every world that holds life does so by our will. Engineer Choi Bin checked his weapons again. The energy readings from the alien structures were going up. They were powering something big. You have entered our sacred system uninvited. This is not permitted. Your kind shows promise, but you are still children playing with fire. You will kneel before us and accept our guidance as countless species have done before you. Commander Park Soo looked at the tactical display. More crystal ships were appearing around them. The human fleet was completely surrounded. We give you 72 of your hours to consider our words. You will send your leaders to us. They will kneel and accept our divine rule over your species. In return, we will guide you to greatness beyond your small dreams. The voice grew colder. If you refuse, we will demonstrate why we are called gods. Your ships will turn to dust. Your colonies will become empty rocks. Your species will learn that defying the eternal is not wise. Jang Mira was translating the message into different languages as it came in. Sir, they are broadcasting this same message to every human colony within 50 light years. Everyone can hear this. Lee Hyun walked back to the center of the bridge. His crew was looking at him, waiting for orders. Some looked scared. Others looked angry. All of them looked ready to follow him wherever this led. Open a channel, Lee Hyun said quietly. Sir? Jang Mira asked. Open a channel to them. Full broadcast so everyone can hear. Jang Mira's hands shook slightly as she opened the communications. Channel open, Captain. Lee Hyun looked out at the crystal ships surrounding his fleet. They were beautiful in a way, like giant jewels floating in space, but beauty did not make them gods. This is Captain Lee Hyun of the United Earthship Iron Will. I speak for the human fleet and all the colonies you just threatened. He paused, choosing his words carefully. His next sentences would either start a war or prevent one. We have traveled far to see new worlds and meet new peoples. We came in peace hoping to trade and learn. But we kneel to no one. We bow to no masters. We have fought too hard and too long for our freedom to give it up now. Dr. Kim Yuna was still recording, but now she was also analyzing the alien signals. Something about them felt wrong to her scientific mind. Lee Hyun continued. You say you are gods. You claim to have made the stars and guided our evolution. Maybe you have great power. Maybe you are very old, but gods? That is something you will have to prove. The bridge was completely silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. And if you are not gods, if you are just another species that got comfortable on their throne and started believing their own stories, then we will prove something too. We will prove that no one, no matter how powerful they think they are, has the right to demand that others kneel. Engineer Choi Bin smiled grimly at his station. The weapons were ready. 72 hours, you said? We will give you our answer long before then. Iron Will out. The channel closed. The bridge crew looked at their captain with a mixture of fear and pride. They all knew that everything had just changed. War was coming whether they wanted it or not. Commander Park Soo spoke first. Orders, Captain. Lee Hyun looked at the crystal ships around them. They had not moved, but he could feel them watching, waiting. Battle stations. And get me every scientist we have. If these Velthari want to play God, we are going to find out what they really are.